everybody. We are in the second week of our series called Permission Granted. We've been talking about how to navigate the freedom we have in a way that honors God, ourselves, and others. Like we've said, freedom may not always be something you feel like you have a lot of as a middle schooler. It probably feels like you need permission from an adult in your life to do just about anything. Now, I wrote down some examples. Going to a birthday party with your friends, still gotta ask a parent. Buying your favorite foods or snacks, you can't even eat what you want. Here we go, creating social media accounts. We can't even talk about how hard that is. Basically, when you're in middle school, everything requires permission. Listen, I can understand how frustrating all of these things can be, but have you ever considered there might be a reason for all the boundaries that we have on our freedom? Trust me when I tell you that I learned that lesson the hard way. See, my bestie in middle school, her name was Dee, and I wanted to spend the night at her house, and my parents said, sure. Dee's parents are gonna be home, right? And I, of course, said, yes, they're at home. And maybe you don't know this, but when you grow up in a small town, all the parents talk. So it did not take long for my mom to find out that Dee's parents were in fact not home for our sleepover. Friends, I have to tell you, I was grounded for months. But isn't that how life works sometimes? We all love the idea of freedom. We all want to do what we want, when we want, and how we want. But when we finally get the freedom to do just that, it feels great. Until it doesn't. Maybe you stayed up way too late, binging your favorite show, and the next day you were so exhausted you failed a big test. Or maybe you ignored your coach's instructions to practice that new skill, and eventually you found yourself riding the bench instead of starting in the game. Maybe you scrolled YouTube shorts all night instead of finishing your chores, and your parents took your phone away. Having freedom is great and all, but sometimes we use it in ways that lead to consequences that we didn't expect and regrets that we didn't want. Sometimes we're tempted to use the freedom we have to do things we know aren't good for us in the first place, and we can convince ourselves that they're no big deal. Repeating that silly rumor, that won't harm anybody. Watching that video online couldn't be that bad. Going to a party can't cause that much trouble. Lying to an adult is just part of growing up. Sending that picture to a crush should be okay. See what I mean? In the moment, that kind of stuff doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But in the long run, using our freedom to choose things that have the potential to hurt us can lead to a lot of regret. It can lead to habits that you didn't want, problems that you've never expected, and harm to yourself and others. Over time, your relationships, your self-esteem, your health, your faith, and your character can take a pretty big hit. The problem? Most of the time, we don't know that we're doing it until it's too late. Sure, we're exercising our freedom, but in reality, we're actually using our freedom to make unwise choices. So, how do we know the difference? How can we learn to make the wise decision with the freedom that we have? Here's the good news. We aren't alone in this struggle. Humans have been trying to figure this out from the beginning of time. And y'all, literally. In Genesis, the very first book of the Bible, we see this play out in a very big way. You might remember that Genesis literally means beginnings. And in Genesis, we see how the ancient Israelites understood the way God created and worked at the very start of the universe. It's like our origin story. We read in Genesis about Adam and Eve, the first humans God created. They lived in a close relationship with God in the Garden of Eden. They had freedom to cultivate the garden and the permission to eat almost anything that grew there. But there was one rule. God told them that they couldn't eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But it was only one rule. Just stay away from that one tree. Don't eat it. It's just one fruit. Easy peasy. What could go wrong? Well, a lot actually. Let's take a look. This is Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" Did you see how fast that happened? With one simple question, the serpent planted seeds of doubt in Eve's mind when it came to freedom and wise choices. Okay, here's what happened next. The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, you must not eat the fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it or you will die." Eve explained that while they did have freedom, they also had boundaries. In other words, like we said, they had to be responsible with their freedom. But of course, the serpent didn't give up that easily. "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When his first attempt didn't work, the serpent came back with a stronger punch. He basically said to Eve, maybe God's keeping something from you. Maybe there's more ways to use all this freedom than you think. Look, it may be easy for us to judge Eve here, but I think if we're honest, every one of us has been tempted to think the same way a time or two. We all know what it feels like to wonder if using our freedom the way God intended really is what's best for us. Now, you may know where the story goes from here, but let's keep reading. "When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it." In that moment, Adam and Eve probably thought they were just exercising their freedom. They may have thought, hey, we're just making our own choices. This is what freedom looks like. But what they didn't realize was that not all the choices lead to real, lasting freedom. So what happened? Well, it seems like it didn't take long for things to change. Adam and Eve started to feel regret and embarrassment over their choice. Instead of staying close to God like they always had been, they hid from God. Their choice broke that close relationship with God, not just for them, but for all the humans to come after them, including us. But here's the thing, before their unwise decision, Adam and Eve had real freedom. They walked with God in the garden, fully known and fully loved. They had peace, joy, and purpose. They were living out God's best for their lives. Then they made a decision to do something with that freedom that wasn't good for them. Eating the fruit didn't make life better. In fact, it made life much more difficult for everyone. While the stakes may not feel as high for us, what happened with Adam and Eve happens to us. We all know what it feels like to use our freedom in a way that isn't good for us. And because of that, we also probably know the only thing these choices lead to is more pain, more regret, and more consequences than we've ever expected. Now, you may be thinking, I've done some things I knew weren't good for me, but nothing really bad happened, so what's the big deal? Well, believe me when I tell you, the consequences are there. Even if you don't experience them right away, over time, the choices you make impact your life in one way or another. So here's what I want you to remember today. If it isn't good for you, it isn't freedom. The Apostle Paul, a teacher in the early church, understood this. In the New Testament, he wrote, "I have the right to do anything you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything." Are there things we could do with our freedom? I mean, sure, but is everything we do with our freedom actually good for us? Unfortunately not. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. See, we experience true freedom when we follow God's best for our lives. Freedom should be guided by what's good for us, what honors God, and what builds up and respects others. Because real freedom doesn't trap us, it sets us free to experience more good in our lives. It's about making good choices that lead to something good, something beneficial for you and others. So, if it isn't good for you, it isn't freedom. Now, just to be clear, simply knowing this won't change the fact that we'll misstep from time to time. Like Adam and Eve, we're also human, and that means we will definitely make wrong decisions or choices that we know aren't good for us along the way. And when that happens, I want us to remember Adam and Eve. When they messed up, God didn't abandon them. God still loved them, and God still loves us. God wants the best for us, and when we mess up, and we will, friends, God is still there, still loving, and still ready to help us walk in real freedom once again. Remember, if it isn't good for you, it isn't freedom. Now, the question is, how do we use our freedom to make choices that we won't regret? How do we know the choice we're about to make isn't good for us? Well, one way is to start by asking yourself 3 simple questions. What do I want to do with my freedom? Now, be honest with yourself and clearly name the choice that you're about to make. For real, say it out loud. I'm about to watch a movie that isn't good for me. It might make you think deeper when you say it out loud, and it will definitely change the way you make choices about your freedom. All right, here's the second one. Why do I want that? Again, this is gonna require you to be really honest with yourself. Like, why do you really want what you think you want? For popularity? For relief? Because of curiosity? Because someone else told you it would help? Say it out loud, write it down. Checking the reasons you have for the choice you're about to make is a skill you can take with you as you grow up. And the last one, what good can come from this? Try to play it out in your mind. If you make that choice, what good can come from it? How will it benefit your life? And not just for now, but over time. Will using your freedom this way really and truly lead to God's best? Pray to God and ask God to help you make the wise choice with your freedom. I know this isn't always easy to see, and that's why I want to challenge you to invite someone into your life who can help. Someone who can point out when the choice you're about to make isn't wise. Someone who can help you remember to use your freedom for what's best. And friends, your small group leader might be a really great person for you to ask. And of course, I hope you remember that even when you use your freedom in ways that don't lead to what's best, God is still there. God still loves you, and God still wants the best for you. You'll always have a chance to start over, and you'll always be met with God's love when you do. Remember, if it isn't good for you, it isn't freedom. Now, as you head to small group, I want you to think about this question. What's one choice you can make with your freedom that you know is good for you?